All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning Board meeting for November 12th. This is being televised by BCAM, thank you. And we are here tonight in person at Town Hall. As we normally do, we'll start at 7 p.m. with the old new business and then move on to the public hearings at 7:15. We have tonight myself, Member Crowa, Member McCamey, Member Conley, and Member Kane, with Member Kent not being in attendance this evening. All right, and so with that, we'll move right along to the first item on our old new business, the request for as-built approval, starting with 2535 Commercial Street. And yes.
If I may, draw the board's attention to a quick memo that I've prepared. This is the Landing 53 building down in the Braintree, Weymouth Landing, residential mixed-use building. I've been working with Josh Katzen over the past probably about a good year or so, just dotting our I's, crossing our T's. They did install a dog park there, so that's part of the request for as-built approval. It's a minor modification request for a small dog park that they've located. Large number of the residents there have pets, so that was a nice addition to the project. Also important to note, Connor and I today spent some time looking at the traffic monitoring report and the volumes that were monitored were 50% less than the projected volumes, looking at the AM, PM, and Saturday peak hours. And we also saw an overall improvement in the level of service at the studied intersections. So perfect example of some mitigation, offsetting impacts on improving the traffic situation. And the last item is we did have a bond in the amount of just over $135,000. The planning board reduced that in 2019 to about $78,000, which we're currently holding. One of the main items in which it was continued the last few times was the maintenance agreement that has been endorsed by the mayor of Weymouth and also the mayor of Braintree, which takes care of some maintenance behind the train station that Landing 53 will include in their spring and fall cleanups. So with that, Madam Chair, I have outlined the surviving conditions, which are our typical conditions, and this would be to grant the minor mod, grant as-built approval, and return any outstanding surety, and available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Member McCamey, any questions?
Are they going to replace the restaurant there?
Yes, they are, if I may, through the chair. I've been working with the owner of that. It's the group that operates and owns the Liberty Tavern in Quincy. We worked through some parking calculations and analysis with them. And also, I conducted an administrative site plan review for their signage. It's going to be a taco tequila bar. And they should be opening in short order. I think they might be opening the end of the month.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Member Conley?
Thank you. Are there any plans for like overflow parking or calling upon the like commuter rail lot at all?
The commuter rail, there's been a variety of different efforts. Previous administration, I believe, worked with the commuter rail to secure some spots for some patrons, business owners down there. We weren't involved with that directly, but the use of that lot is available at night for folks that want to utilize some of the businesses down there. We were monitoring the lot quite a bit here and there because we kept going out and doing site visits, and we've never seen it full. The Weymouth side is also open now too and has been for a while. So I'm not sure if that kind of, leveled things out a little bit. But the option to use those spots is always there, regardless of, any actions here locally.
It seems like the weekend and the evenings is difficult for parking there.
Yeah, I mean, we spent a great deal of time going through with this restaurant to the point that I made a recommendation to licensing that was like, hold up until we make sure. And I had gone back and researched, and actually the planning board granted a minor mod for the patio seating and didn't require any parking for that, and that was one of the things that were, so we went through the full parking analysis all over again, updated every, this place is an extra 200, this was gonna be retail, it's office, and went through that ad nauseum, and they meet all the parking requirements down there.
And is the breakfast restaurant that was in front of us coming?
They've had some issues with the building department.
Okay.
They've had extensive issues with the building department. I don't know where that stands. They came here for the relief for the parking, and then subsequent to that, we worked with them on the facade through the administrative site plan review, and then I heard they were doing some things that the building inspector wasn't overly appreciative of, and I haven't heard anything since then.
That's helpful, thank you.
All right, thank you. And Member Kane? No? I don't have any questions either. So I guess with that, we'd be looking for a motion to grant as-built approval with ongoing conditions identified by staff.
I'll make that motion, Madam Chair.
I have a motion by Member McCamey. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second by Member Conley. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. All right. Oh, the next item on our agenda is a request for as-built approval for 350 Granite Street. This is a Fox Rock property. I know I disclosed it before, but just for the record, Fox Rock is the owner of the building that my firm is in, so no conflict, it's not this building, but just to mention it again, and as we go forward on it. And so Assistant Director Murphy, do you want to go over the report that you put together?
Yes, if I may, Madam Chair. Back in July of 2022, the Planning Board voted to approve a major mod to Planning Board Decision 87-42. The major modification allowed the applicant to reconfigure a portion of the parking area and to install an outdoor courtyard with associated landscaping improvements. The applicant contacted us in the early part of 2024 saying they had completed the work. Weren't really given a heads up on that. So we worked with the applicant over the past several months. They've built the area to what was proposed in the record plans. They've provided documentation complying with all conditions as it relates to the major mod. At this time, staff is recommending the Planning Board grant as-built approval with the surviving conditions listed within the report.
Thank you. Member McCamey, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Member Conley?
No, thank you.
Member Kane? None for me either. So with that, looking for a motion on this one. Is that, all right, so we have a motion by Member Kane, and it's your motion to grant as-built approval with the surviving conditions in the report? All right, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Member Conley. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. Next item that we have here is request for minor modification, Planning Board File 2002. This is Arnold Street by Adam Street Enterprises.
Madam Chair, if I may, you're
Yes.
probably looking around for a bunch of materials. Attorney Modestino and Sean and George Clements and George Lang are all here. This is the team that we've been working with on the redevelopment of Riverside Business Park. And there are definitely some modifications that are going to be presented this evening. Just to inform the board, we do have on-call inspection services ongoing from Deb Keller of Merrill Engineering. And she has also provided me with a scope to complete a peer review of these materials. I signed that today and got that back to her and shared that with the applicant. But I've asked them to come this evening giving updates to the board. They've made a substantial amount of progress, still a lot of good work to get done, to outline some of those things and maybe any questions that the board may have, and then looking to bring this back next month once we wrap up the peer review. Trying to use this process as well to try to clean up any things and straighten out some things in the decisions. They've kind of pivoted and done a couple things a little bit differently, but we've been involved in that. We've been talking about that. Deb's been on board with that. But just an opportunity now that they've gotten out there, they kind of know what they're dealing with, an opportunity to clean up the decision and have it be a little bit more reflective of some of the minor things that have happened, and then some of the changes that they want to make as part of Phase 2.
Okay, great, thank you.
Good evening. Michael Modestino, I represent the applicant, George Lang. This has been a project that's been going on for some time, and we're here to present to you a request for minor modifications. We understand the issue of the peer review and all of that, and we're fine with that, obviously. So the applicant is seeking to modify the previously approved 139,000 square foot warehouse manufacturing building. And instead of building that building, which was approved before in 2023, the applicant is asking to be allowed to build two buildings for a total of 101,818 square feet. One building would be 56,818 square feet, and the other would be 45,000 square feet. If approved, the requested modification would result in a net decrease in building size of 13,182 square feet. As part of the requested modification, the applicant will be increasing parking spaces, which now include accommodations to allow large truck parking and enhanced site circulation. In addition to the enhanced parking and circulation, this modification will also alleviate the originally anticipated traffic generation to and from the site. We do have a report from Vanessa and Associates, a traffic circulation study, and I will go over that to some degree. I would like to have Sean Hardy point out to you what we're doing and what we propose to do and how it is situated on the map.
Great, thank you.
Good evening, Sean Hardy, professional engineer with Hardy and Mann Design Group. So if you remember before, this was all proposed to be one big warehouse building, so it's now being split to these contractor bays and then a various warehouse building there. Generally speaking, we stayed within the exact same footprint of what the overall limit of work was for the site regarding the limits with the paving and off-site, off-pavement type improvements. We did decrease the building size, and so therefore the building coverage went from an approved almost 30% down to about a 21%, so that's a reduction there. In addition to that, we took advantage to add a little bit more landscape spaces that we could, that were freed up because there's, not building and we didn't need all the parking. So the lot coverage went from about 63% as approved down to about 57%, so about a 5% reduction there. And as a result, the open space went from the approved about 37% up to 43%, so the same 5% increase there. It's going to fall. Okay. So this is the first of the grading and drainage sheets. Generally, the grading stayed the same, and we tried to make the drainage be the exact same. So all of the subsurface infiltration systems, and I'll flip the page and show the other ones, are in the same location, and generally the catch basins that were there are in the same, but we had to add a few. Reason being, to grade to contractor bays, you're hitting garage doors, so you have to make sure that, if you have a big warehouse building, you can come up and down and along the foundation and only have to meet with his doors, but this is all doors, so that needed to have some grading there and a little bit of infrastructure, meaning catch basins and manholes to convey it. But we kept, as I said, all of these same subsurface infiltration chambers. They got bigger, I'll go over that in a minute, and the same outlets. So we didn't want to change any permitting as far as associated with conservation or any of that. I guess I'll explain why some of them got bigger. So on this side, you know, the one that gets fed from this building, the building got smaller, so that one could get a little bit smaller, but the result was that because of this, the pavement got bigger, so we needed to, on each of these buildings go to specific ones and the pavement went to other ones. So if the pavement got bigger, then that chamber system had to get bigger, and as the building got smaller, that chamber system could get a little smaller as a result. Continuing with that out back, a little bit more. This building is generally the same size, but the addition of pavement here made up for that same increase. So ultimately, I think what was approved we had 674 initial chambers, the 4x4 concrete galleys. This has a total of 833. The reason to, again, just to mitigate the pavement and to keep those same numbers. Phase 1 out in the front is done and it's complete, and all its drainage systems are different than this one out back. So when we went through and modeled it, we made sure that each of these specific outfalls, there's one over here and a couple over there, they're further decreased than what the approved plans or the stormwater management had. You know, initially we were tasked with reducing from existing conditions to our approved condition, but we made sure that each of those outfalls is further reduced so that we can talk directly, peer review can understand it, see it, pick each outfall specifically, and it should be smooth, I hope.
Thank you. The project has afforded the town of Braintree tremendous traffic mitigation upgrades as well as major infrastructure improvements throughout the property, which include but are not limited to increased draining capacity, preventing contaminated runoff from entering the Manaquit River, and the creation of a public access viewing point of the Manaquit River, as well as substantial new tax revenue will be realized by the town. Jeff Dirk of Vaness and Associates did a trip generation assessment, which is in the package, and that seems to indicate that there's going to be a reduction in the number of vehicle trips in the area, approximately 43% on the average weekday, with 28 fewer vehicle trips expected during weekday morning peak hour, and 36% reduction and 27 fewer vehicle trips expected during the weekday peak hours, which is 33% reduction. In the end, the report indicates that the conclusion is that the project will be less impactful on the roadway network from the uses that were approved for Building E as part of Riverside Business Park. And I mean, I think it speaks for itself. There's going to be less traffic, less vehicles there as a result. Additionally, Mr. Scott Morrison from VHB did some environmental monitoring site inspection on the property back in September, and he looked at the water treatment system, the erosion control barrier between the work areas and the riverbank, and the installation of drain lines, head walls required to complete the stormwater management system. So I think the system that's being done is a good system. I would ask George Clements to come up here now and address some of the other issues that I haven't brought up.
Thank you.
Good evening, George Clement. I really don't have much to lend to the modification, but I can speak to kind of what's been done thus far. As some of you may be familiar with the site, I know you're new to the board and you probably didn't sit on the past hearings, but 16-acre plus site, 3 acres were sold to another user. That property has been built out, it's operational. We've recently completed a 9,000 square foot new commercial building that we plan to be occupying very soon. All of the major infrastructure has been completed. As you may know, extremely complex site given the history of contamination, floodplain issues. If you search the town over, you probably couldn't have found a more complex site than what Mr. Lang has undertaken over the last several years. But I'm happy to say that it's been a great year. Property looks amazing, and hopefully we can expedite on these 2 new buildings. And it's kind of unusual to take a single large building and ask for less square footage. Generally, real estate is paid by the square foot. However, the single-use users just are not in the marketplace at this point. So we looked at this as a better opportunity. Modification seems very reasonable. I think there's a lot more benefit to the modification than there are negativities to it. And again, attracting the right tenants and occupying these buildings quickly is the desire. We considered if we wanted to go through the process, if we wanted to make these adjustments, and we had to weigh, you need to weigh that with time. So we felt if, the 139,000 previously approved square foot, we could sit and wait for a user to come along. That may take several years, or we could make, pivot, make these adjustments and try and attract the tenant sooner, creating, finishing up this project and creating some great new tax revenue and local businesses, as like we've done in the past with this site. So with that, any questions on the site, I'm happy to answer, but glad to report that it's went extremely well, given its complexities.
Thank you. Member McCamey, any questions?
I do, thank you. What kind of work on the drainage has been done so far?
So there's several, there's 3 infiltration, drainage structures, large drainage structures, and Sean will pull that up. So we've looked at this project. When it was presented to the board, it was presented as a single project, but given the complexity and the size of the site, we look at this as two separate projects. The project in the front, which is the 9,000 square foot building, which is complete, and an existing building. That required extensive detention pond areas, just a ton of floodplain work, changing floodplain elevations, extensive water, sewer, and drainage. So essentially, we received today from our surveyor an as-built plan for the phase 1, showing all of the work that was completed in that phase. So extensive amount of work. As a matter of fact, Sean alluded to the fact, I think you referenced 200 and some odd chambers to the rear.
Yeah, the front's
Yeah.
way more than that.
Yeah, so the front portion of this site was far more extensive from infrastructure basis than what we'll have in the rear of the site. So the complexities and the unknown variables of the ground have all been sorted at this point.
Okay, so you're still in phase 1?
No, phase 1, we're basically at a standstill at this point where, we've got some touch-up work, I'd call it. For phase 1, we'll be looking for an occupancy. It's very soon. Phase 2, as you know, there was extensive mitigation along that riverfront. So we went in, we removed all on the knotweed, the invasive species along the riverfront. And that was done under the direction of VHB, very well qualified wetland consultants, and another company, Sumco. So they handled that portion. So next year in the spring, we'll look at maybe new growth, and hopefully by the fall of next year, have plantings along the riverfront, have the river walk installed, And that's why the quicker we can get the modification, we'd love to push through and try and close this project out fall of next year.
And how many phases are there going to be? So we talked about one.
Yeah.
I
So-
heard two.
Yeah, well, so it's all tenant-driven, right?
It's all what? I'm sorry.
It's all driven by the market, right? The market's gonna dictate to us, but what we'll do is we'll go ahead, we'll advance and do what's called pad sites. So we'll go ahead, if we get the approval for the modification, we'll continue immediately with our infrastructure. We've negotiated with several, one of them being a Braintree business, about perhaps taking a 50,000 square foot building. And again, once we're able to secure the modification, the interest, we believe, would be a lot more viable. You know, as you know, business, they don't like uncertainty in permitting, so once they feel confident that the permits are there, we could have a real negotiation with them at that point.
The planning board doesn't like uncertainty either.
I'm sorry?
The planning board doesn't like uncertainty either.
Well, you don't have any here. You've got
Yeah.
every
Well,
engineer and,
It's changed a lot, so,
yeah,
you know,
For the
we
better,
were
for
looking at
sure.
this several years ago.
right.
And as you said, Mr. Clements, it's a controversial site. So what's the vision for the tenants now? You know, for the two different buildings?
Sure. So we've had some distribution, food distribution facilities looking at the site. We're depicting on this plan contractor base.
Food transfer?
Yeah, yeah, refrigerated storage,
Refrigerated
things of that
storage,
type,
okay.
that type of use. We've had some interest, some high levels of interest on that. We've identified some contractor bays, but again, the market's gonna really dictate what we end up creating. For the purposes of this, we're showing contractor bays. If we decide that that's not the right use, or we have a better use that comes along, then obviously we'd work with Melissa on that use. But if it's an allowable use, then we'd go ahead and do that.
Okay,
But
so that's up in the air. Because my thought on the contractor bays was, of course, if you have, I don't know, 10, 12 bays right there, that opens up to the street and obviously to the neighborhood. So my initial concern would be noise and lights.
well, that's right, and
You
that's.
know, and I mean, the bays on the other side I can see, but the ones streetwise, you know. So just an observation. Obviously, you haven't concluded that yet, but
Yeah, this is actually to the rear of the property. This doesn't abut a street. This is tucked way to the rear of the property, so it's not visual from the street.
okay.
The 9,000 square foot to the front of the lot would be. This is really way tucked into the rear of the property. So phase one would have been this front entrance where the TLC is operating now.
Right.
And these contractor bays will be to the rear. And again, to your point, contractor bays, I guess traffic is what type of traffic, right? What's the most impactful traffic that could be in that intersection would be tractor trailers in my view, and I'm on that street frequently. So contractor bays, oh, yeah, this is a better depiction here. So, you know, in consultation with our traffic engineer, they felt that we're gonna have a 43% reduction in traffic, which is substantial.
Yeah.
We mitigated to a much higher level. And
Well,
if we
my
can-
comment on that is, if you're going to have a 43% reduction, but you're going to have an increase in tractor trailers, which are 5 times the size of a car, then I don't know if that's mitigation or not.
Well, I think you have it backwards.
Okay?
We're saying that, you know, contractor bays don't bring tractor trailers. Contractor bays bring vans, pickup trucks.
Right.
It's just that contractors. 139,000 square foot single building would be a distribution hub full of tractors and, you know, tractor trailers. So I know, and I wasn't really involved in the project during the permitting process, but I know there was a lot of extensive discussion along what types of vehicles. So I think ultimately, in the end, tremendous benefit because your concern is mitigated just by this type of use.
Sure. So if you don't really know what's going in, it seems to me that you can't really make an evaluation on the traffic counts and the types of traffic yet. You're making a small assumption because the size of the building has gone down. But until we really know what you're going to put in there, I mean,
No,
I guess
I
we
don't-
have to reevaluate that. I'd like
Sure.
to see the updated
You have it in your
assumptions
Yeah.
when you come down to it. You know, I mean, you said you wanted certainty again, and I'm just saying that's what we'd like to see. We'd like to see what you're actually going to do,
Sure.
who's actually going to go there, and then we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, and
I understand
No, no,
all
I
the things you're
understand.
saying, appreciate it,
Sure.
but it's not real yet.
no, absolutely, and this is the first step in the process, but there are allowable uses, right? And we certainly mitigated to a certain standard, and by reducing that, we have to rely on our professionals as you rely on the professionals we pay for to mitigate, you know, your risk, the town's risk, the engineer that has overseen this project on your behalf. So we have to rely on that same thing. But there are allowable uses, and I think if you read through the traffic report that we've submitted to you, you'll see that they make those assumptions based on zoning, not just on hypothetical. So the zoning is the calculation that's used when they look at this. So it's just not hypothetical at all. It's
Right.
actually...
We've gone through a lot of traffic stuff in the last
Sure.
couple of years.
No, absolutely, I understand.
Particularly one in particular that comes to mind.
Yeah,
And, you know, I think we and the staff
Sure.
will look at it when it actually happens.
absolutely.
You know.
You know, but that may complicate it because we're asking for a minor modification. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, and I'd ask the director because, again, there's nothing definitive here. This is all sand. You know, so I understand where we were in the very beginning because there was a dramatic concern about the
Sure.
size of the vehicles and the number of vehicles on the streets there,
Right.
particularly, you know, the intersections and so on. So, I don't know, that's my observation. So,
understand.
Yep, thank you. I don't have anything else, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Did you have anything to add at this time, Director?
I would, just very quickly, Madam Chair, if I may, in regards to the traffic, we have a very detailed set of traffic findings and conditions. Now that there's been some additional information presented, we will take a look at those. Those will be modified as part of this minor modification. If they present a use that doesn't jive with the categories that we've looked at, then we would have to revisit those to make sure that the different use is within those traffic generators. It's in their interest to continually update us because Mr. Lang will be required to monitor, and they want to make sure that they're telling us A, B, and C is going to happen, and when they monitor, A, B, and C does happen. So we've been having some detailed discussions about tenants. You know, I think that they might, you know, they would probably like to be a little bit further along on the tenant side of things so that they could have a little bit more definitiveness. But essentially what they've done is they've used the previous program, reduced the square footage, and that's what they've presented, and that category is warehouse. So if something different comes forward, we will, obviously, first we check the use table to make sure is that allowed by right, does that require a special permit? And then we look to the conditions and the findings that were made to see if there's any conflict with what's been done versus what was approved. And we will continue to do that. We've had these discussions on the field. We've had lengthy discussions with George. I mean, things are going in a good direction now. We have a good comfort level. Our new conservation agent is up to speed on things. So things are moving, slow start, but things are going in the right direction. Everyone, you know, will do something here or there, but we have a good communication going on between us, which I think is helpful. So understanding that they have some challenges, very, very, very challenging site, but it's like starting to like come together. And I would welcome if anybody would like to go on site that we can arrange for that. George has always made the site available. Anybody can reach out to me and we can go over there. And then you'll start to see it really, once you come on the inside, you can really start to see it coming together.
All right, thank you. Member Conley?
My questions have been answered, thank you.
All right, thank you. Member Kane?
It sounds like there has been years of history with the site. Can you tell me a little bit about what's been there historically? What was there before you got there?
So, yeah, well, there's been multiple uses. Well, primarily, it was a concrete crushing processing yard. Back to I guess it would have been the 40s. But yeah, this is a good perspective. Yeah. I think you'll, if you'd like.
Can I use this to block from the cameras?
So again, I think it probably goes back to the 50s or even earlier. It was a concrete crushing yard, the Graziano concrete. I don't know if you're familiar with the site, but yeah, and it became more complicated with years of just crushing, filling. There's a river that runs right through, the Monadequat River, extensive contamination over the years. So Mr. Lang very bravely took this challenge on. Probably not a lot of appetite for it in the market, as we know, but he's done a great job with it. Very challenging from just a cost perspective to remediate the site, restore a riverfront, just on and on. But we're excited, and I think if you folks took a drive through, you'd be very pleased with what it was and what it's now becoming.
So when I look at this map, the graphic, I see like not a lot of if I'm pulling this right, your site is approximately this.
That's correct. Yep, right along the tracks.
Not a lot of housing over here for
Nope.
concern about maybe a light, just trying to.
That's the railroad track behind it,
Okay.
yep.
And then this looks like, is it still industrial use to this day?
Yes, that's all industrial along Adams Street, and then it's separated by the Monadequat River.
Okay, so, all right, perhaps neighborhood, I mean, certainly a move in the right direction in terms of removing neighborhood blight, so to speak. Perhaps we can consider that, since there aren't any abutting properties directly, I would say in line of sight, perhaps maybe a light concern might not be as large of a concern. That being said, I do agree with my fellow chair member that it's important to understand what the future use of the site is. There are neighbors, there are on the other sides of the tracks. I don't know, I guess I look at this and I say it's a pretty noisy site probably to begin with,
The commuter rail runs right through their
Right.
backyard. They see the commuter rail before they'd see our lights. So, no, we're respectful of that, and we went through this extensively before. This application, we haven't identified a user because we've had no interest in the site. For us to attract a user, we need to get the modification done. We definitely understand the concerns about light, but what we don't want to do is we don't want to rehash old issues. This is a very straightforward, minor modification, and quite frankly, maybe, I think there's tremendous benefit to this. Certainly, given the time that we've marketed this property to the open market to see if there was interest for a 139,000 square foot building, there just hasn't been. And when it comes to light, you can see where these buildings are situated, it's all wetland. As a matter of fact, Mr. Lang owned the property across from it, and over years of neglect, the whole area is a wetland. So there's quite the buffer between everything. And again, very simple minor modification, respecting everybody's concerns about traffic. Those are always sensitive issues, and we're respectful of that. And we'll, if we have a user that requires a special permit or anything that Melissa feels we should be addressing with the board, we do that. But there is post-monitoring requirements for traffic, things of that nature. So, this has been, as a matter of fact, Melissa, I think 2-3 modifications to this site since its inception.
I'm sorry, since when, George?
So since we've started with this site, I believe there's been 2 modifications, the original and 2, one being TLC. I think there's been several modifications to the site through the plan
There was
board.
the original permitting, and then when they broke off the TLC piece, we wrote a new permit for TLC, and then we modified this one to now only be what's left.
Gotcha.
And to George, we participated in some meetings early on. We were very eager and, wanted to assist George Lang in helping get a tenant. And when people were interested, we would have meetings. What do you want to do? Et cetera. And the reality is people, the building is too long and too narrow for a lot of these different systems, racking systems, getting around the building, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, I think the goal is to get tenants here and to get tax-paying businesses here. And if shrinking the size of the buildings will do that, all the other mitigation is still in place. All the mitigation is essentially done. The town was doing some work, so Mr. Lang provided that funding in a series of payments to the town. So to the point of that, now we've mitigated to the previously approved level. So any modification to vehicle trips, whether they're reductions, whether they're a little bit of shift, there will be some wiggle room in those peak hours if they do take on a use that's a little bit busier in the morning, just because they've reduced the total program by about, is it about 40,000 square feet?
Yes, about 30,000.
Yeah.
30,000 square feet, plus or minus.
So that's a decent
Yeah.
amount of program when you're looking at a site as a whole. And then TLC is up and running, and they're full throttle. They have a little bit of drainage work to do in the back, and we've bonded that work, and if they haven't already started it, they're gonna be starting it shortly. So it's coming together. We were worried for a while, but it's coming. I think everybody was. It's coming together.
Yeah, and it's going to be a lot easier to attract a tenant once we actually have a cleaned up site. Right now, we just have a heaping pile of debris, and it looks like it did originally, just more debris stuck in the back. So once we feel confident that, okay, we've got our minor modification, that's when we'll make the investment to clean the site, and then tenants will see the value on the site. Right now, it's hard to see value there.
Thank you. Member Kane, anything else?
That's all for me.
Okay, great, thank you. And I know that you mentioned there was going to be a peer review of it, but with the skinnier building, is there room for the trucks to back up to those loading bays on both sides?
Yeah, so
Or
I'll let
whatever.
Sean can speak to that, but you see these here, I know
It's
that.
actually the other building. I guess the question is,
So
are
these are all
those set up
garage
to be
doors.
individual?
Yeah, they're set up to be individual, but if somebody wanted 3 units, they could get 3 units. But these are garage doors. So there is technically you could park a car there, but we're not showing that. But this is intended, you open the door and you can pull in and load and unload what you need.
Right, okay. Yeah, I remember, this first came up, I was on the Conservation Commission at the time, so taking a walk there was a lot of work that needed to be done, so it's good to see it moving along. I don't have any other questions with it. It does look like a reduction, and so look forward to getting the comments from the peer reviewer, and
We'll see you before Christmas.
See.
We hope.
see how it goes forward. All right. Any other questions, for tonight? No? All right, so I guess, do we need a motion to continue, or we just table it until December?
Let's just table it, Madam
Okay.
Chair, please,
All right.
till
all right.
December 10th?
10th, I believe, yes.
Okay.
All right, so thank you for the information, and table till December 10th.
Thank you.
for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. All right, next item is a request for approval not required for 1891 Washington Street. And just, Louise isn't here, can you just introduce yourself again? Sorry, thank you.
Can you hear me now? There we
Yes.
are. Very good. So this has been looked at for quite a while by my client, and we've gone through the Zoning Board of Appeals and gotten a couple of variances that were necessary to get to this point. And I think the A&R plan is good, and my client would like to have it, stamped and approved. And we've had multiple discussions with Melissa about it, and I would ask her to jump in at any point. But I think that this is very important to my client and to his family to try to move forward on this matter.
All right, Director Santucci Rossi, do you have anything to add on the request?
Just very quickly, Madam Chair, we've been working with Pat for a while now on a couple different projects. You might recognize him from his dance school days. Sorry, I had to do that, Pat. So he's been working with the church. He wants to build a beautiful, bigger, wonderful home for his family in the Highlands. So he did go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. The A&R is very straightforward. I was just in the office. I'm like, these people have so much frontage. I think his lot's going to have about 200 feet on Catherine Drive, and then the church will have the remainder of frontage on Catherine Drive, along with another 100 or so feet along Washington Street. So pretty straightforward. The plan looks good. I've done a quick report and also have the Mylar as well as the decision plate if the board is inclined to vote to endorse the plan, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you. Member McCamey, did you have any questions?
So are you actually buying property from the church? Is that
Yes,
what it is?
yes.
Yeah, okay.
It's under
And
agreement.
they're one of the abutters?
Say it again?
They're one of they'll be one of your
Yes.
neighbors?
Church will, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. Member Conley?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Member Kane?
No questions.
All right, thank you. And the standard is rather straightforward as to whether there's enough frontage, so I don't have any questions. I guess with that, just looking for a motion to endorse the plan as approval not required.
I'll make that motion, Madam Chair.
A motion by Member McCamey. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second by Member Conley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
time.
thank you. Okay, the next item we have this evening is the discussion on the housing choice legislation. Director Santucci Rossi, I know you prepared a staff memo. Do you want to give an overview of the discussion here?
I did, Madam Chair. Have the board members had a chance to review the materials that were provided? And are they somewhat familiar with the housing choice legislation? Okay, so I'll give
Yes.
a high level. So there was quite a bit of things, actually, there are ongoing things happening at the state level related to housing. These particular ones and the topics of this memo this evening were the amendments made to voting thresholds for certain zoning changes out of 40A Section 5, excuse me, and also certain special permit votes out of 40A Section 9. This particular memo and materials I've provided is really drawing our attention to 40A Section 5, and that is looking at that section and understanding the lowering of the voting thresholds from a two-thirds majority to a simple majority for certain types of zoning amendments. And I've included not only the 40A language itself, I've included a memorandum from KP Law. They do all kinds of updates for their member communities, and also included some guidance that us planners use from the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development. As you can see from the memo that has been prepared, one of the things that, one of the types of zoning changes that lowers this is listed in this list here, and I've called them out as number 1, which allows for multifamily housing or mixed-use developments as of right in an eligible location, and we'll come back to quote eligible location. And then also number 7, changes in dimensional standards such as lot coverage, floor area, height, setbacks, minimum open space, parking, building coverage to allow for the construction of additional residential units on a particular parcel or parcels of land. So the PUD has done both of those. We know that it allows multifamily housing by right, and several of the retail uses and business uses are also by right as part of the PUD. And the PUD also, as noted in number 7, changes a lot of these criteria, dimensional criteria, and lowers parking requirements, which enable the construction of the residential units that we've been talking about throughout this lengthy process here. I'm going to move into eligible location. So we can lower the threshold if it is in, quote, this eligible location. And this eligible location is defined in 40A, Section 1A, which I've included for the board, in the memo for the board for reference. And it talks about a bunch of different areas, and I'm drawing attention to the board members to number 2, where it says areas of concentrated development, including town and city centers and other existing commercial districts in cities and towns and existing rural village district. Well, given that this is a regional mall and is our largest building in Braintree, that is in excess of 1.5 million square feet and is a commercial hub for all things that malls provide, I would say that this is indefinitely is an eligible location. I've gone through again and also included the definition for multifamily housing, making sure that we're drawing correlations from the definitions outlined in 40A, Section 1A, to the definitions that we've used. And we do have a multifamily definition in a building with 3 or more residential units, or 2 or more buildings on the same lot with more than 1 residential dwelling in each unit. And we understand the concept plan and language provided in the MUPUD, which in fact does provide that type of housing as defined in the definitions. So based on this, and also I've included some correspondence back and forth with KP Law. Again, we had this opinion and discussion under our previous administration and our previous town solicitor, but always want to just check and double check and provide the most current information for the boards and also the county council in their decision making. So with that, Madam Chair, I'd be looking for the planning board to determine that the South Shore Plaza is an area of concentrated development within an existing commercial district. And then I'll, depending on the board's action this evening, I've already shared this material with Sue Semino on benefit of the council, and we'll continue to update them based on the planning board's actions this evening. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you. And thank you for all the information that's in here. Member McCamey, do you have any questions?
No questions, thank you.
Member Conley?
No, thank you.
Member Kane?
So just to understand this, this vote is essentially just saying that, yes, we all agree that Social Plaza falls into the MUPUD, and then the 2/3 majority, okay, straighten that out. There's a lot of words in there, a lot of legalese. So there's a part about the 2/3 vote going to a simple majority.
So, my understanding of it is that what we're being asked is determine if the location of the South Shore Plaza is an eligible location under the definition,
Right.
which for the purposes that are most relevant there is a commercial location that, no, I don't have the words that come with it, an area of concentrated development and other existing commercial districts. And so if we determine it's an eligible location, then the different voting thresholds that are inside the law
Okay,
more
so that's,
clearly apply.
depending on how we move forward in the classification of Social Plaza, it would determine the 2/3 versus the majority then? Where does the 2/3 versus the majority part come in?
For the
On
council,
page 5.
for the town council.
Okay.
And their vote.
Okay. Okay. So if it is deemed that this parcel meets that categorization, it would be a simple majority vote versus if it weren't, it would be a 2/3 or?
Correct.
Okay, understood, thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
No, that's fine. No, I appreciate you asking and talking it through. It's a lot. That's why I gave all this backup and
Yeah.
what's eligible, and we all have to go with their definitions, and yeah,
Okay.
there's layers.
Sure.
All right. So, no other questions? All right. So I guess with that, we'd just be looking for a motion on this item.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion. In accordance with Chapter 358 of the Acts of 2020 and Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 1A and Section 5, as most recently amended, determine the location of the the proposed MUPUD at 250 Granite Street at the South Shore Plaza to be an eligible location as defined.
All right, we have a motion by member McCamey. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by member Conley. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, that's all four. Thank you. All right. And I know we have the minutes and the schedule left, but I think I'm just going to skip to the public hearing section, and then we can, if there's any questions on that, discuss that after. So the first public hearing that the public hearing we have is 81 Common Street, Planning Board File 2412. And I know we have a staff report from Assistant Director Murphy. Do we have anyone from the project here?
Can I read the ad? to open the
Yes.
public
Oh,
hearing?
sorry. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yes.
Madam Chair. Notice is given by the planning board under the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, Sections 9 and 11, and the Braintree zoning ordinance, Chapter 135, Articles 5, 6, 7, 11, and 12, that a public hearing will be conducted on Tuesday, November 12, 2024, at 7:15 PM in Braintree Town Hall. Planning board will consider an application by Shu Chen for a special permit and site plan review. The applicant is proposing to construct an elevated addition 18 feet by 32 feet and deck 13 feet by 14 feet. Said property is located at 81 Common Street, shown on Assessors Plan 2063 as Plot 4H, and contains 23,366 square feet of land within the Residence B zoning district in floodplain zone AE.
Thank you. And do we have anyone from the applicant who'd like to discuss the application? Just if you can come up to the microphone, just introduce yourself if you'd like to ask Assistant Director Murphy to go
I
through
think
this.
my engineers, he came here a couple of times, explained all this my, purpose. And the main thing is they're considering like a wetland, because I'm not going to have like a foundation. Yeah, there's an elevator by like we're making a sauna top with a post. Yeah, so there's no problem water issues. And that's all. And I believe Marissa, she knows much better than I. Yeah. She knows everything.
And was your engineer planning to attend, or was he not planning to attend this evening?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Your engineer, had he been planning to attend, or was he not planning to attend?
You're talking about this meeting?
You're right.
He's not coming.
Okay,
He said he, not asking for to come in, let me to come in.
okay, I just wanted to confirm.
Yeah.
Okay, and can you just give your name and address for the record?
Su Chen, 81 Common Street, Braintree.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. And I do note that we have the staff report, the plan that's with the application, and recommendations in there. We don't have a lot of opportunity for questions without the engineer here, but I guess we could have oh, yes.
Madam
Director.
Chair, I think I've been working with Mr. Chen for a while. Connor jumped in just because of the workload, and I had to work on some other things. But we can cover probably any questions that come up. It's very, very straightforward.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right, Member McCamey, do you have any questions?
Maybe we could have the staff go through the straightforward nature of the project. That would be great.
Certainly.
Thank you.
If I may, through the chair to the board, the applicant filed a special permit for development within the floodplain protection district. The applicant is proposing a one-story addition to tie into the existing foundation or the existing level or elevation of the first floor of the single family, along with a proposed deck. To support the deck and the addition, given that it's in the floodplain, the applicant has to construct sonotubes into the ground. Those sonotubes take up the available flood storage. If you were to look at the staff report and the accompanying plans, you will see the same table. The applicant is proposing to create compensatory storage in the location of the addition in order to handle the displaced volume within the floodplain. Given that, staff did prepare the report with findings and conditions. Staff would like to note is within the Zone AE base flood 100-year floodplain with an elevation of 39 NAVD 88. Additionally, given that the applicant's table, which dictates compensatory storage volume, depicts increases in the storage of the volume provided. Additionally, it meets the provisions of our special permit criteria. It's elevated 1 foot above the base flood elevation. Actually, it's elevated upwards of about 4 feet from the base flood elevation to the top of the foundation and the level of the first floor.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Member McCamey, did you have any other questions?
Are there any conservation findings on this project at all?
The applicant, given that there are proximities to wetlands within the area, did file a notice of intent, I believe, with the Conservation Commission, and that was approved last Thursday by the Conservation Commission.
Okay, so there's a whole plan and conditions and...
Correct,
Thanks.
yes, with the
Okay.
Conservation Commission, yeah.
Okay. And the size of the project is reasonable and would fit in, you know, there's a lot of big structures on Common Street.
This is one of them.
This is going to be one of them? Okay.
It's already one of them.
Oh,
The
really?
additions to the rear.
Okay.
Yep.
But everything is in code? Okay. Okay, I don't have anything else, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Member Conley?
No, thank you.
Member Kane?
Nope.
And I don't have any either. I'll ask just because I have to, if there's anybody from the public who is here with any comments on it. Okay, seeing no one. I next move to see if we have a motion to enter the correspondence list into the record through November 12th.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Member Conley. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second by Member McCamey. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and I'll be looking for a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Member Conley. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second by Member McCamey. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and now just be looking for a motion on the application. Motion to grant the special permit and site plan review with the conditions listed in the draft staff report.
So moved.
A motion by Member Conley. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second by Member McCamey. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
very,
you.
very much.
Okay, take care. Okay, all right, so now skipping back down, we have the approval of meeting minutes, September 10th, and did we have October 8th? Yeah, thank you very much. I actually can't remember.
The
know I looked at minutes. I can't remember if I looked at both of them or only one. Do you recall?
Oh, you'd remember.
I remember reviewing the October set.
Okay, all right, so
Did the September set come in earlier than that?
Yes.
Okay, then,
okay, so both, okay, and I think, so, Member Kane, you weren't at either of the meetings, so you won't vote on them, and then, so I think it's just the three of us voting on the meeting minutes. So, looking for a motion minutes from September 10th and October 8th.
So moved.
Motion by Member McCamey, do we have a second?
second.
Second by Member Conley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone abstaining? Member Kane abstains. Okay. All right.
301.
Correct. Yes. Okay. Okay, and the last thing we have is the 2025 Planning Board meeting schedule. I know that was sent out last week or the week before. Did anyone have any comments or questions on the schedule?
I had a conflict in June, and I let staff know about that.
Okay. All right.
You already know your June calendar?
We hope you know yours too, Robin.
Let the record show I do not.
That's awesome. Just one, Madam Chair, we moved, what did we do, Connor, with November? Yeah.
We moved it to the Wednesday as Veterans Day is that Tuesday.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so with that, just be looking for a motion to approve the 2025 Planning Board meeting schedule.
So moved.
Motion by Member Conley. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member McCamey. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and now motion to close the, oh, never mind. Skip back up to the continued public hearings. So we have the first one on our list for the continued public hearings as Planning Board File 2407, 119 and 133 Common Street. There's a request that the public hearing will be continued without testimony to December 10th, 2024. So we just need a motion to continue that hearing to December 10th.
So moved.
Motion by Member Conley. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member McCamey. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, next one, we have Planning Board File 9612, 193 Rear Grove Street, also known as 175 Grove Street. This one, we also have a request to continue without testimony to December 10th. So we just need a motion to continue to December 10th.
So moved.
Motion by Member Conley. Do we have a second?
Second. Yep.
Second by Member Kane. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and now we just need a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Member Kane. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Conley. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.